Hi there, this is my first official Walkaway video, and I never really anticipated doing one. In fact, I thought long and hard if I should be doing one, because I was never a liberal and never held liberal values whatsoever. But when Brandon Straka encouraged all of us to put a story and a face to those of us who voted, I figured that I'm going to share my story, because on November 2016 I voted and my vote did count. And just for the sake of not being accused of being a Russian bot, I figured that I would share that story. I am a minority. In fact, my ethnicity is probably more of a minority than most minorities that you would know. I'm Polynesian, but not only that, I'm Native Hawaiian. And we can go into the history of Native Hawaiians. There are not much of us today. However, we do have that one story where we blame somebody white and they took away our land and all that stuff. And that's actually a factual thing, that actually happened. I, however, as a female, growing up in America, have never experienced that type of disadvantage. I grew up on the mainland, and I would say half mainland, half Hawaii. And I grew up with white people. I grew up with Hispanic people. I grew up with locals in Hawaii, and we're pretty much all the same. We have the same opportunities. Some of us are born into richer families, more well-to-do families than others. I wasn't really actually born in a well-to-do family. I struggled a lot as, a child, a youth. Didn't have that much money. I still don't have a truckload of money, but I tell you, I worked hard, and with a lot of the benefits that my country did provide for me, I got scholarships. I hold a Bachelor of Arts degree. I wrote a book, and I've accomplished many things. So I'm really actually very thankful for my country. I love America. I love, love, love America, and the values that I hold reflect that. I am thankful for my freedoms. I'm thankful that we live in a free market where we can, work towards success, where we can accomplish our dreams. I know that there are other countries that don't even have half what we have. I never was like a Democrat or Republican. I just voted based on my values. I mean, that's actually a thought. And what do you know? Most of the people that I voted for tend to have been a conservative base, So, I mean, yes, I am conservative, but I'm just a girl who loves my country. Throughout the years, I wasn't really all that political, actually. However, the last president that we had, the last administration, the last 8 years, was something very different. I didn't really give in to the hype that it would be the first African American president, because I always voted on values. Like how I said, I could care less what you look on the outside. I really want to know how your values are going to affect policy that's going to affect my life eventually, because I live in this nation. That's what really mattered to me. So I didn't give into the hype of, like, yay, we're going to have our first guy in there who's a minority, even though me being a minority myself, but I had a lot of friends who, wanted that, and so they voted, and we were all cool with that, actually, But I started to see that this president in particular, made some really drastic changes. And that's when I started becoming woke. I started to wake up, and I started to see that, like, oh my gosh, we're starting to progress, but progress farther away from what America stood for. You know, like, we had a president that was very aggressive against First Amendment rights, Second Amendment rights, First Amendment meaning the religious part of it. And, I value my freedom of religion greatly. But for someone who, decides to take out prayer, at the White House and decides not to participate in any of that stuff, that was pretty blatant. And I was glad that I didn't take part in putting that person into office, honestly. But you know what? I didn't complain. I didn't shout into the sky. I didn't, threaten to blow up the White House or anything like that. I was taught to pray for my president. And yes, he was my president. And yes, I did pray for him. And although I was outraged at certain policies that he made, but it's not just him now, okay? When I say him, I mean like the left in general. Like, I was saddened. But I kept on praying, and there were many times I bit my mouth. Literally just kind of like, But then, it wasn't until the last few weeks of his presidency, he just decided to write up all these executive orders, and he did things that was really hurtful. That was really, really hurtful to me personally, because as an American, I valued our allies, and one of the most important allies we had was Israel, and how the left, just threw Israel under the bus. That was something that caught me, and I was like, how can this person do this? And I started to get bitter, and I started to get very dark. I was becoming very dark, and a friend of mine had to remind me, you need to forgive, you need to pray. My anger and my resentment wasn't going to do anything to better America. I had to humble myself, and I had to just cry out to God. And then, so I kid you not, okay, I kid you not, there were times where I was, like, literally, I felt dark, and I felt almost like a hatred coming along for, everything that the left stood for. Maybe more so their ideology than the actual person, but I just couldn't understand, I just couldn't understand. And, I think maybe a lot of the left people, when they found out that our current president is in office, they probably were just as dark, So, hey, I understand how that feels, how you can just get to that place of hatred for someone, but it's how you respond to that. And I had to respond by prayer. So I prayed, but it wasn't until the very tail end of that administration, and you and I both know that he made some pretty serious executive orders, and he just kind of like, I'm just going to write all these executive orders because I'm leaving anyway, and I just thought that was not a responsible thing to do, and it would have hurt America so much. And so when we had our elections, 2016 elections, I remember a friend of mine and me, my friend would drop me off home at night after work. I kid you not, both of us would literally be weeping in the car, tears and everything. And I'm not just saying that just to say how that we're crybabies, but we literally felt it. And we asked God to save our country, literally, because we knew that if the other candidate were to get in, that we would not have America. America would not be the America we know today, or we ever knew. So we just prayed and we cried, and there were many nights like that. There were many nights like that. And then so, we kept in touch with the news, and, with the progress of, Trump and all that stuff. And, it didn't look like Trump was going to win, and guess what? I'm going to be bold as to say this. Trump was not supposed to win. He wasn't supposed to win. Hillary was supposed to be president, or she was supposed, I wouldn't say pre-president, but Hillary was supposed to win that election. And let me tell you why. Because the media was against Trump. But not only the media, people were against Trump. Other countries were against Trump. The Republican Party was against Trump. The GOP was against Trump. There were so many things coming against this candidate. That's why I got sad, because I didn't think that, because I didn't vote for Trump in the primary, but I did vote for him in the general. But the thing is, I really felt that he held the values of what makes America great, and so I was just so sad for America, because the whole world was against Trump, and it seemed like that Hillary was going to win. That's why people were in shock, because she was supposed to win. But I say she was supposed to win because when you pray, God hears you. You know how some people say, well, your vote doesn't count, because it's a conglomerate of votes and it's your state and, electoral college and stuff. Well, when it comes to prayers, every prayer matters. Every prayer counts. And all those nights where we interceded in the car, God heard our prayer. God heard this prayer. And I knew later on that the night before the election, Jerusalem was praying for our election. Oh my gosh, people from around the world were praying for America in the elections. I was so touched by that. And I'm just still touched by that, how the people of God can rise up and have their voice be heard. And what turned out to be the course of America was going at a train wreck. God stepped in. And now the minority became the majority. Because with God, he's the majority, always. His vote always trumps every other vote. And he stepped in. And I tell you, things turned around. And you could have the media against you. You could have the whole entire world against you. And because of the prayers of people, because of my prayer, because of your prayer, because of people all around the world love America and they want God to still be God in America, that's why that whole thing turned around. That's why till this day, they're baffled. They don't know what happened. They have to blame somebody, and Russia seems like the most, viable country to blame, I guess. But that's my story. That's my all-American story. It's a story of how when the odds were against America, America had a reprieve. We, for now, have been saved and redeemed, and God has done so much within this past year and a half, because the people decide to pray. And I really believe it was the prayers of the people. I mean, it was our vote too. We have to go out there and vote, but it was our prayer. Prayer trumps everything. It trumps everything. And so that's my story. After that election, it had such a great impounded effect on me that I don't see prayer the same way anymore. I don't see my faith the same way anymore. I mean, God pulled off a miracle. He did the impossible. I don't care if we're the minority. I don't care if we're the minority. We could be the minority, we could be the majority. I would never know that for certain, but I know that there is one source that influences everything. And if we can humble ourselves and pray, he promises that he will heal our land. And our land happens to be our great country. And so this is a video to show people why I'm so impassioned about some of the posts that I write. It's not meaning to be divisive or, mean or anything, but all of my posts are to share how much I love America. Sometimes by sharing how destructive the enemies of America are. And so I just hope, everyone could realize it and see it too, and simply walk away from fear, walk away from feeling defeated, walk away from feeling impossible, and walk towards faith, walk towards possibility, walk towards personal responsibility, walk towards patriotism. I hope my story has blessed you. And yeah, that is the story of just one of the many votes from November 2016.